Hi, everybody. You are listening to Radio Cherry Bombe, and I'm your host, Kerry Diamond, coming to you from Newsstand Studios at Rockefeller Center in the heart of New York City. Today's guest is Sohui Kim, one of New York City's most talented and thoughtful chefs. You know Sohui from the historic Gage Tollner in Brooklyn, the always fun Insa, and maybe even from her beloved restaurant, The Good Fork, which so many New Yorkers still miss. Sohui joins me for an update on Gage Tollner, including the special Edna Lewis Foundation benefit dinner held there recently to celebrate the 50th anniversary of The Taste of Country Cooking, Edna's landmark cookbook. Edna was the head chef at Gage Tollner from 1988 to 1992, in case you didn't know that, and so he talks about what it means to carry her legacy forward, from the Edna Lewis Room upstairs to the she crab soup influenced by Edna that's been on the menu since the restaurant reopened. We also talk about Sohui's own touches on the menu, what's happening at Insa this summer, her favorite karaoke song, the vintage Airstream she and her hubby Ben might travel around the country in, and why her mouth gets bored if there is nothing crunchy to snack on. And of course, we talk hot dogs, because Sohui is part of our upcoming event, the Hot Dog Edit, happening tomorrow, Thursday, May 28th, at Rockefeller Center. I'll tell you more about that in just a minute. Sohui will walk us through the hot dog she dreamed up for the event, and it is very Sohui. Okay, so here are all the details. This one is for our New York City friends or any of our friends happening to visit New York City tomorrow. Get ready for the Hot Dog Edit. Thursday, May 28th, Cherry Bombe's very first food truck is pulling up to Rockefeller Center. We'll be celebrating our hometown's most iconic street food with 3 of our favorite local chefs. Today's guest, Sohui Kim, Michelle Palazzo of La Roque and Frenchette, and Angie Rito of Don Angie and San Sabino. Sohui, Michelle, and Angie have created their dream hot dogs and will be serving them up throughout the day. This one-day-only outdoor pop-up is in partnership with OpenTable and Visa. Join us to celebrate the start of the summer, nosh on some limited-edition collab treats, and hang with Team Cherry Bombe. Reservations for the Hot Dog Edit by Cherry Bombe, OpenTable, and Visa are available through the OpenTable and Visa Dining Collection for eligible Visa cardholders. Restrictions apply. See terms and conditions. All the links are in our show notes. If you do come tomorrow, I will either be at the truck or I'll be right across the street at 1 Rockefeller Plaza at Newsstand Studios. The studio is literally in the lobby of 1 Rock. So come say hi and check out where we make the magic happen every week. Now, let's check in with today's guest. Sohui Kim, welcome back to Radio Cherry Bombe.
Thank you so much.
It's so nice to see you.
Always. Always so great to see you.
We have a lot to talk about today.
Yep.
The most recent thing is you just did a fantastic Edna Lewis dinner at Gage Tollner.
Yes.
Edna Lewis. Hopefully all of you know who Edna Lewis is, and if you don't, please go look her up. So it's the 50th anniversary of Edna Lewis's big landmark book, The Taste of Country Cooking.
Right.
And again, hopefully all of you own the book. I know there are a lot of cookbook collectors out there listening, and that's really such a foundational book, and you should all have that. But the 50th anniversary edition came out with a foreword by Tony Tipton Martin, another person we love. And to celebrate, you did a big fundraiser dinner for the Edna Lewis Foundation.
That's right.
And you had an all-star team.
Oh, my gosh.
You among the all-stars. Gage Tollner, your restaurant in Brooklyn.
Yes.
One of the oldest restaurants in New York City, right? Beautiful space. Hopefully lots of you have visited or have it on your must-visit list. But Edna Lewis used to cook at Gage Tollner. So that's the connection between the two things. All right, go time.
That's right. Yeah. So the idea for the dinner came about Deb Freeman, who came out with a documentary called Finding Edna Lewis. She reached out. Part of her film is filmed in Gage Tollner because there's a part of her movie where she goes to Cafe Nicholson. It was another great restaurant, you know, from the past that Edna Lewis was a head chef at. It doesn't exist. And she actually takes a visit and sort of peers in, you know, through the closed up storefront. So Gage Tollner is the only, you know, one of very few places. I think there are some places in the South, but really in the city where she made a mark as a chef, right? Way before the cookbooks ever came. And so Edna Lewis was the head chef at Gage Tollner from year 1988 to 1992. At the age of 72, she said yes to the invitation by Peter Ashkenazi, who was then the owner of the building and owner of Gage Tollner.
And Marcy Bloom.
And Marcy Bloom,
Who's
exactly.
been on the show, yeah. Marcy was married to Peter and co-owner, right?
That's right. That's right. And Pam, who is his second wife, they're all friends. And she actually wrote me a beautiful letter wanting to be there. But, Peter he's not very mobile, but he definitely, sends his love and support. And, they have many, many stories. And in fact, I am going to set up a time to go visit them, Peter and Pam, to record a lot of the stories that he has. And so anyway, all these discussions originated when, my partners, Ben Schneider and St. John Frizzell, wanted to reopen Gage Tollner. And I often say that is really one of the reasons why I said yes to this, because of her part in the history of Gage Tollner. So a huge Edna Lewis fan. I, have read Taste of Country Cooking way before, very early on in my culinary career, when it was like the thing to collect, really cool cookbooks. It's one of the only cookbooks that reads like a novel. It's like a one long, beautiful seasonal poem to the land, to gardening, to community. So for many, many reasons, I felt so compelled to name our private dining room upstairs after Miss Lewis. So our PDR is named after her. A year ago, when Deb came out with the movie, Sarah from Penguin Random House Knopf reached out, and they said next year is going to be 50th anniversary. That's when I was like, we have to have a dinner. In whatever form possible, we need to have this to commemorate and celebrate.
And it turned out to be a real all-star dinner.
All-star dinner. So then Mashama Bailey, who is a wonderful, she's getting so many great accolades. She just made Time 100, and she's just an absolute wonderful human chef.
Mashama, who cooks down in Savannah at the Grey.
Grey.
And she opened a restaurant in Paris.
In Paris, exactly. So about 5-6 months ago, when we were just starting to talk about this, she spent a lot of time in France. So we're trying to, come up with a time so that we could really plan this. She is actually the president of the foundation, Edna Lewis Foundation. So she partnered up with BEM, the ladies at BEM, and this whole festival sort of kicks off, just celebrating her legacy and the 50th anniversary of this seminal cookbook. And it all kicked off last Tuesday, actually. 4 courses by 4 chefs, and myself, Mashama, Adrienne Chatham, and Leah Branch. All wonderful, very, very amazing chefs, and I had the best time getting to know them. And of course, Deb Freeman came, and she was the MC. Nina came, who is Edna Lewis's niece.
Nina Williams Mbang. Yeah,
yes.
We've had her on the show a few times. We love her.
So wonderful. And Tony Tipton-Martin, who also last year, maybe a year and a half ago, when she launched one of her books, she came and did a signing and a reading at Gage Tollner. So upstairs in the Edna Lewis Room, we want to do a lot of educating, a lot of celebrating, lots of great programming up there. So it made sense for us to hold this dinner. It was just super fun. And everybody who was there, it was an intimate gathering. So I think all told, there was about 48 people. It was really well documented by Clay Williams, who does wonderful photography, food, a dear friend. So it was like an all-star gathering in honor of Edna Lewis. And all the chefs, we spoke before we presented our courses. And, towards the end, I got a little bit, emotional. It's just really a full circle moment. So I looked at Mashama. I was like, we're going to do this every year.
I was really thrilled that the sisters who founded BEM, which is a bookstore specializing in Black culinary books and literature, that they put together this whole Edna Lewis Festival, which I hope they do annually. And this dinner kicked off everything.
Yeah.
One of the things that's so special about Gage Tollner is you're an interior landmarked restaurant. And it's so rare to have interior spaces landmarked in New York. People might not realize that.
Yeah.
But you really feel the presence of Edna Lewis when you walk in.
Oh, absolutely. I feel her all the time. And quite frankly, I actually did mention that in my little toast, that I do feel her. And to honor her, listen, Gage Tollner, it's been open since 1879, in that space since 1892. There's a lot of spirits and ghosts, and you have to respect them. You have to say hello to them, bow to them, and just feel them. But I do really feel the presence of Miss Lewis there. Every time we look at the menu, every time we try to celebrate our, we just celebrated our 5th anniversary at Gage Tollner. So that's the rebirth, right? Because we opened April 15th, 2021. So we're
supposed to open March 15th, 2020 on my birthday.
Oh my God, that's right. So 13 months later, we did the reopening. And it was very important to me and Adam Shepard. I have to mention his name because he helped me open Gage Tollner. It was such a beast, the whole program. But he and I did a lot of research into the menu, talked about the genesis of various fun dishes that we kind of take for granted. Like, where really was the oysters Rockefeller first, created? Antoine's, they say. What really is a Saratoga chip? It's just potato chips from Saratoga Springs. What is a crab Virginia? Where does she crab soup come from? Well, Miss Edna Lewis put it on the menu when she took the helm in 1988, and she got rid of, oysters cooked 30 ways, clams cooked 30 ways. And she's like, you know what? I'm going to do my food. And her food is seasonal. It's definitely Southern cuisine. It's simple, but it's delicious, and it's ingredient forward. And that's what we wanted to do, right? And I think any chef worth their salt they want to do that. They want to put forth, respect where the ingredients come from, treat it well, but get the best kind. If you're gonna put asparagus in the springtime, make sure it's the juiciest, tastiest, you know what I mean? And don't serve it like in November.
Tell us about your course. What did you make?
So she crab soup. I didn't do a lot of work for this because I was organizing the whole thing. And she crab soup has been our menu since we opened. And I thought it was a good representation of a dish that she herself put on the menu at Gage Tollner. And it's a menu that I honor her presence, at Gage Tollner. It's not exactly her recipe. And in fact, you can't find the she crab soup recipe in Taste of Country Cooking. It's in Pursuit of Flavor. And she has 2 recipes there. One is a very classic take, the other one Charleston. And we do sort of a little mishmash of that, really trying to coax out the flavor of the crab. Whenever we crack open a blue crab, we save the roe. And what I do is I cook it, I dehydrate it, and it sort of becomes a little less potent, but visually beautiful because it's pink and coral color garnish. So that was a hit. Now, of course, with a little side of sherry. And
Yum.
Yeah. And so there's a
Wait, are you supposed to drink the sherry or drop it in the soup?
Whatever you want to do. And I would imagine that Miss Lewis did a little bit of both. Leah Branch did the second course, and she made chicken ballantine, which was amazing, with ramps.
I have to ask, Leah is the one chef I didn't know.
She is an executive chef at the Roosevelt down in Virginia.
Down in Richmond,
Yeah. And so this was my first time meeting her. Amazingly talented, very soft-spoken, but just lovely. Her second course incorporated ramps and strawberry and rhubarb, I believe. Beautiful presentation. Right after her course, I forced a palate cleanser salad course. That's how I like to roll. A lot of times when you have, these dishes, especially when you say Southern cooking, people think it's very heavy, and I don't think that's true. And certainly not when you look at Taste of Country Cooking. It is not heavy cooking at all. It's just really smart cooking, seasonal cooking. And my dear friend, farmer, Patty Gentry of Early Girl Farm in Long Island. So when I told her that I was doing this dinner, she's like, oh, honey, I'm going to give you the best spring greens out there. And she did. She cut all the lettuces, and there was a beautiful mix of butter lettuce, oak lettuce, had sorrel, amaranth, beautiful. And page 10 and 11 of Taste of Country Cooking, she has a recipe for a mustard vinaigrette and a spring green salad. So it was inspired by that. A palate cleansing green salad as a mid-course, and then Mashama did her Wagyu steak. English peas, salsify, carrots, all vegetables that you could find right now at the farmer's markets. A lovely little reduction steak sauce. So it was lovely. And then, of course, Adrienne, she said, when she introduced her course, she said, so I'm offering you guys dessert. I'm not a pastry chef, but I'm playing one this evening. And she made the most amazing apple cake, in quotation marks. So she baked and cored an apple for a really long time, and she made this delicious apple cake with some streusel on top and caramel sauce. Yeah, it was amazing. Oh, with some ice cream, with vanilla ice cream. Yeah. Because, she said she looked over a lot of the recipes, and because it's a seasonally based cookbook, all of her desserts, Miss Lewis's dessert, is very, very fruit forward. So it was a magical, lovely dinner. like-minded people. And a lot of people came up to me afterwards and thanked us for bringing Gage and Tollner back. And I thought that was something. And then I, in turn, thanked the Landmarks Commission for designated Gage and Tollner as a third interior and exterior landmark after the Public Library and Grant's Tomb. Isn't that crazy?
Crazy.
So nuts. But thank you. Otherwise we would not have had that dinner,
Like I said, everybody, put Gage and Tollner on your bucket list. If you haven't been yet, you should really go visit. You've got the Sunken Harbor Room, the great cocktail bar upstairs. Yeah. They've got the private dining room. If anybody needs to host an event, we've hosted a few there.
Yes, you have.
And had great times and great meals. Yeah. Then the dining room and the bar in the main dining room.
It's a special place. I'm so glad I resisted as much as I did in the beginning. But then once I said yes to Ben and St. John and bringing it back, we were all in. And, we put a lot of love in there. We have an amazing team that make it happen every day. And I think more and more people are finding out about the treasure upstairs that is Sunken Harbor Club and the fact that you can have a lovely, private dining event upstairs in Miss Lewis's room. So, yeah, it's a special place. And I felt complete that night.
You have put some personal spins on the menu.
Oh, yeah.
That I love and I always order when I'm there.
Can't help it.
I will say the tough thing about Gage and Tollner is deciding what to order. Because if you just go with one other person, you are really going to leave being like, oh, I wanted to try everything. Tell us some of the things that are very Sohui that are on the menu.
Well, okay, so if sheet crab soup has been there ever since our beginning to honor her legacy, there's a whole others like, a really solid fried chicken basket, Miss Lewis again there, and all the sides that utilize seasonal vegetables. The Sohui spin, the sort of the Korean-specific ingredient spin is the clams kimchi as opposed to casino. Ben and I go, so we have this little joke every time, with the Good Fork initially, we're not the owners there anymore, but when we opened up, he named the mojito Sohito. So he likes to wordplay on my name. Clams kimchi has a little bit of kimchi in the butter. If I wasn't Korean and if I didn't make my own kimchi, I think I would still use somebody else's store-bought kimchi and I do encourage people to utilize kimchi and some of these other more ubiquitous ingredients that used to be like, wait, what's that? Because it adds so much to the chef's pantry or the cook's pantry. And that's how you sort of distinguish yourself, right? Yes, I have a Korean barbecue restaurant also called Insa, but doesn't mean that I put kimchi in everything. But in this specific recipe development phase of how to make the best clams casino, I was like, we need to throw a little kimchi up in here with the butter. So it's basically a kimchi butter that has, some other ingredients, and it's just broiled with the clam, and it just takes it to the next level. There is a delicious sort of tempura'd fried hen of the woods mushrooms, maitake mushrooms, that's been on the menu since we opened, and that is served with a black garlic aioli, house-made sriracha. So we'd like to utilize everything. We make a big batch of hot sauce and sriracha, when the farms, like one early girl has like 50 pounds of peppers that they don't know what to do with. You just buy them up and make pepper sauce with it. There's also a good amount of room on the menu, more composed dishes, because, I like to correct everybody in saying that Gage and Tollner is not a steakhouse. It is a classic oyster chop house, of which there aren't too many, so it's kind of hard to explain. The difference between a steakhouse and an oyster chop house is that steakhouse does steaks. That's what they do. That's their thing. But at Gage and Tollner, you could have a plethora of other appetizers. It's sort of like a cross between a steakhouse and a public house, a pub, if you will. So there's a bit more offering, and seafood. So we have the raw bar. I guess a lot of steakhouses have the raw bar too, but this is focused and spread out throughout the appetizers as well as the entrees that we offer. So rotating, composed menu, dishes of various seasonal fish. Anyway, I could go on and on.
Talking about all the Sohui touches on the menu is a great segue to our hot dog edit. So, like I said at the beginning of the episode, the hot dog edit is this really fun one-day event we're doing at Rockefeller Center. And I was so happy you said yes. We reached out to 3 of our favorite chefs here in the city and said, hey, want to design your dream hot dog? And we're going to have our first ever food truck at Rockefeller Center, which is where we record the show. I feel very at home in that space because of that. But thank you for saying yes.
Oh, my God.
And I want you to walk us through your hot dog because it is very special.
Well, okay, hot dogs are special, right? I feel like hot dogs is surrounded by controversy. First of all, is it a sandwich? What is it?
Oh, yeah, I never understood that sandwich thing. I'm firmly on the side of a hot dog is not a sandwich. Where are you on that?
But you have to look at it. First of all, thank you so much for asking me to do this. I am just beyond thrilled. And this is basically what I do, right? Like, as a chef, I take ideas, simple, classic ideas, and that was my job at the Good Fork, 20 years ago when I opened it. It doesn't exist anymore. Now, Gage and Tollner, that's my job. How do you make the best oysters Rockefeller that people remember? How do you make the best crab Virginia? And if you don't know what that is, I could explain to you later. It's because, there's a lot of throwback menu items that I contend with because of the 100 and whatever, close to 40 years of menu that we have, the historic menus that we have to go over at Gage and Tollner. So you take a classic dish. How do you twist it? How do you make it into something memorable and delicious? So when you came at me with the hot dog challenge, I was like, oh my God, ding, the light bulb went off. And the inspiration is really my love of chili dogs. I'm not necessarily a huge fan of hot dogs. Like if I'm going to a barbecue and there's smash burgers on offer as well as hot dogs, I'll probably go for the smash burger. But every once in a while, when you are having a hankering for a hot dog, you know what you want on it, without going into all the variations of how to make a hot dog delicious. I immediately thought about a chili cheese dog. And I'm going to mention my friend George Motes, who has Hamburger America. And he invited me and Ben to a benefit, Gods We Deliver, with his friend Seth. And we went and had the most amazing chili cheese dog. And I realized that not only was it great, but I hadn't had one in a really long time. And this was just made perfectly. The casing, there was a pop of the casing. The chili itself was really nicely flavored, meaty, but not like, that sort of consistency some really bad chilies have. This was just really well done. And then the classic cheese sauce, it was perfect. So when you came at me with the hot dog question, I was like, it's going to have to be a chili cheese dog. And then to put the spin on that is to make the chili part a little bit Korean. So utilizing soy sauce, a little sweetness, for it. So I'm going to make a sweeter version of a classic chili, but just as spicy, by utilizing some peppers and gochujang and probably some gochugaru as well, which is the flakes. The image popped up right away, but then the cheese portion I'm not going to mess with. I think you got to have the classic melted American cheese, Velveeta. Like, don't mess with that. And then some toppings, some crunchy onions, kimchi, add a little kimchi in there, some other herbs. I'm thinking a little perilla too in there. I'm excited for this challenge.
You moved here from South Korea when you were 10 years old.
Yep.
Had you had hot dogs before you got here?
No, I've never. So I like to think about 1981 in the Bronx as the year that young Sohui discovered, quote unquote, American food. It's the classics, right? It's the hamburger, hot dog, and pizza. Now, the pizza I didn't understand because I was like, why would anybody put ketchup and cheese on bread? And that was my 10-year-old South Korean understanding of the basic ingredients. I mean, if you think about it, it really is, right? You have bread, that's the crust. You have the cheese, and then you have this red sauce. And the only red sauce that was non-Korean was ketchup. And so that was my thought. And when I had it, I didn't love it. But then, of course, quickly, I grew to really, really love pizza. Hamburger, I've had hamburgers back in Korea, so that wasn't a big mind-blowing experience. Although I'd never had McDonald's, because back in the day, no McDonald's in South Korea. That was totally game-changing for me, the whole Happy Meal, notion that you could get a toy with, like, your favorite meal ever. Hello. And then, of course, the hot dog.
Is it true you had your first one in Central Park?
My first one in Central Park. It was a family outing. We immigrated in the month of March, so it was very cold. But then once the weather got really nice, on Sundays when my dad had the day off, we would have like a forced, family family activities day. And one day we went to Central Park. And we had, what they call a dirty dog.
Right? The dogs cooked in water.
In water,
Yeah.
in the carts. And I just had it very simply, like you said. It was just a hot dog, no sauerkraut, just a lot of ketchup. And I have to say, it wasn't my favorite. The consistency, I think, of a hot dog, a lot of young kids, I think they either love it or they don't go for it. Like my kids never really loved it.
Yeah, if you cook the hot dog in water and you don't griddle the bun, there's not a lot of textural variety there.
No. And then, of course, the bun is not of the best quality and it's not toasted. So, there's little tricks that you could do to make the very basic hot dog delicious.
So are you a griddled hot dog?
I think so. Griddled and, the griddled bun, too. But I like a lot of toppings now, for sure. But that was my very first memory of a dirty dog in Central Park with my family.
This is going to be a very upgraded hot dog from that. So thank you, Sohui. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to want to eat everybody's hot dogs that day.
You're going to have to.
I know. There are 3 different hot dogs. Maybe I'll find somebody to split them with.
Yes.
That's ticket. If anybody wants to split all the hot dogs with me, DM me. But it's really going to be a fun day. I don't know if you spent much time at Rock Center. I know you've come to visit us at the podcast before, but it's such an interesting part of New York City.
It really is. It's a part of city that I don't frequent. All my restaurants are in Brooklyn. I live in Brooklyn, so I don't get a chance to go. So I'm super excited. And I think Rockefeller Center, it really is a food hub, is it not? There's so many great restaurants there. Fast casual as well as, sit down lunch, a lot of lunch places.
It has become a great food hub.
Right, right. And I just actually don't know much about it. So I'm looking forward.
Take you on a tour that day. Matcha soft serve downstairs. There's pizza downstairs. I mean, just so many places. There's
every kind of food you can imagine.
Lobster
right?
rolls. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
There's daily provisions down there.
Where's the truck going to be?
Good question. I should tell everyone that. Thank you. The truck is going to be between Anthropologie and La Rock.
Perfect.
So many fun Rockefeller Center memories. And this is going to be one of them. I can't believe we're going to have our first food truck.
That's so
Have
exciting.
you ever done a food truck?
I did not. I did look into it back in the day when Ben and I were thinking about it. It's like, well, why not a food truck? And you realize that you have to jump through as many hoops for a food truck as well as, for opening up a brick and mortar. So no, I've never actually ordered a lot of great food from food trucks. But I've never actually worked on one. Ben and I sometimes joke, if we could ever retire from the restaurant business, that maybe we could travel and see the continental U.S. by reworking our Airstream as a food truck.
Do you have it? You own an Airstream?
We do.
Where is it?
We do. We have it out in Long Island, and it's a 1968 Airstream.
Is it parked in a lot somewhere?
It is parked, and it needs a lot of work. And it's always been a dream of Ben's to have an Airstream. So we've only taken it out once, and that's how busy we are. So we forced the kids, I think 2 years ago when we got it, to go on a camping trip with us. So we took it to Maine, to Acadia National Park, and that was super fun.
Were you afraid it was going to break down?
Yes, and I think at one point it did. But the stove on it works, like everything works. So sometimes we joke about traveling around.
Wait, I think this could be a reality TV
this
show.
Maybe could. It could actually.
Huh.
There's a lot of social media, like people living in vans and, documenting their lives and such. I saw there's a lot of interest in people's like being mobile. And how fun would it be to cook as you go, right? That would be really fun. And then the things that you offer will change depending on where you are. When you're in the South, you can obviously take advantage of what they're offering and, what people want to eat there. And then it could just shift all. We're onto something here.
I would watch that show. Food Network. Somebody make the show with Sohui and Ben. Give us some tips for folks who sadly cannot join us for the hot dog edit. Oh, you know what? I didn't tell you. We're doing a little newspaper that we're giving out that day.
Oh,
and you know me, I'm such a print nerd. So it's actually going to be a printed
nerd.
Yep. It's a printed newspaper. If you come, you get the special little collector's edition only, limited edition.
I love it.
Copy of the Cherry Bombe Daily. So don't miss that.
So it's like a zine. It's like a hot dog.
It's almost like a zine. We actually designed it and printed it. But yeah, make sure if you come by that you get that. All right. For folks who can't join us for the hot dog or the newspaper, what are some tips for making a good hot dog at home?
I think it depends on your situation. If you're having people over and you're sharing it and it's an event, it's a barbecue, it's a cookout, definitely it's got to be grilled. But I think if you're making a quick fix, kids' snacks or something like that, boiling, making sure that you have good quality, right? not all hot dogs are made the same way. So just like anything else, like anything in food, just get really good quality hot dog. And if the casing is natural, the better, I think, because you want that pop. It really is a textural situation. Definitely grill the bun, right? Make that hot. And you could do that on a stovetop, right? And a cast iron, just not, you don't even need any, just maybe a little butter.
I was just going to say.
Just a little bit of schmear of butter and make that nice and toasty. Again, that is, another level of flavor there. And then, we're going to talk about ketchup versus mustard. That's controversial. And I think always sauerkraut or grilled onions, not both.
I do like sauerkraut, but I do love grilled onions. I think I like onions on hamburgers better. I grew up eating ketchup. You couldn't have paid me $1 million
Do you
to
still
touch.
do? Do you
No.
still? No.
No,
Yeah.
I'm fully team mustard now.
Yeah.
But how do you get kids to be more adventurous, or is that just a fool's errand? Yeah.
You can't. And I'm actually seeing this now because my daughter just came home from her first year in college, and she's like a totally different person. So it happens naturally. So I think, with young mothers these days, I say don't force it. Just make sure it's available and that you do offer them the rainbow colors of whole foods, but they'll come to their senses at some point about good food.
So she's a totally different person when it comes to food?
She's way more adventurous. Yeah, but my son, who's 16, still doesn't like his food to touch the other food on the plate. And I'm sure he'll grow out of that.
That's a thing.
It is a thing.
Is he okay if people eat off his plate? Does that freak him out?
He has a Korean mother. Of course, he's got to be fine with that.
Okay, before we let you go, what's going on at the restaurants this summer?
Yeah, so the summertime actually is really nice because it's not as crazy. In general, I would say, generally speaking, for the restaurant industry, summertime slows down a little bit. So you have quite a bit of tourists that come through. There are a lot of people who live here, I think, since
Brooklyn's
the pandemic.
rough.
Brooklyn just empties out.
Oh, my God. It did before the pandemic when I had my places.
Yeah, so we have a different type of clientele that comes through, and it's not as bonkers crazy. Gage Tollner, that's the one time where you could just sort of walk in, and have dinner, even brunch. It's a nicer, slower pace, which is great for our staff. Great for me, too, so I could spend a little bit more time out, in Long Island at the farms.
Getting that airstream.
Yeah, exactly. But we are doing restaurant month, I think, starting in July and August. So that's always fun. I remember as a student, right? Like you go and get the $20 restaurant pre-fee type of thing. And I think it exposes us to some younger customers and other people who just want to take advantage of the offerings for Restaurant Week.
That's awesome that you do that. I know not every restaurant does that.
Yeah. So we have the time and space to do that in the summertime. So I encourage people to come check us out then. And Insa is always happening. There's always birthday parties, karaoke events. And I think people, the whole summer being the barbecue season, that sort of translates to Korean barbecue. So we get just a little bit busier on the weekends at Insa.
Insa's so much fun.
It really is, isn't it? Yeah.
Fun food, fun cocktails, mocktails, and the karaoke rooms.
Karaoke is what drives people in. And it's so funny. It's very popular with our generation and very young, like Gen Z generation, because my son likes to say, oh, my God, all my friends have all at one point had a birthday party at Insa, a karaoke birthday party.
I want to have my next birthday party at Insa. What's your karaoke song?
Pat Benatar, We Belong. Yep. You can tell I was born in the 70s, grew up in the 80s. I just can't get away from it.
Want to sing a line for us?
No.
Everybody knows that song.
Do we?
Oh, no, maybe.
No, she has that other popular one that I can't think of the name.
Hit me with your best shot.
Hit me, that's more popular. We Belong goes, we belong together. That's
Carry a tune, listen to you.
I can, sometimes.
That's a good song. I loved Pat Benatar growing up. We're going to do speed round right now. What beverage do you start the day with?
Decaf coffee.
Decaf?
I know. It's, I'm getting older and I just can't handle caffeine. But, when you have decaf, and I make it at home, brewed decaf coffee, beans. I do the whole thing. It's just decaf. I got myself a frother, so I make oat milk frothy froth and then no sugar, and that kicks off my day.
A little frothy froth.
Yeah.
I think you have to trademark that.
Yeah.
No shame on the decaf. I think you might just be the first chef who...
To admit it. It's okay. I'm not too proud.
What's always in your fridge?
Kimchi. Two kinds.
2 kinds. What? Tell us.
Gakdugi, it's called. Gakdugi is radish kimchi that you cut it up in squares, and it's sort of the similar spicing as regular kimchi. So there's always Napa cabbage kimchi and radish kimchi.
Oh, I love Napa cabbage kimchi. That's my favorite.
Next time I see you, I'll give you some.
I will not say no to that. Thank you. What is your most used kitchen implement or tool?
Other than the chef's knife?
It could be chef's knives. Nobody said that in a while. Microplane's been very popular lately.
Yeah. I mean, you do need that for everything. Zest. Yeah, microplane. You know, I think when you've been cooking for so long, like, I don't bring my entire knife bag anymore. And I'm just like, what do I need? To tell you what's in my to-go quick grab knife bag is obviously my chef's knife, the zester, and a peeler. And that's it. And I think you could do a lot of damage with those 3 items.
100%. I realize I am at the point in my life where I need a knife bag. Not something I ever contemplated, back in my fashion days.
Right. So when you're talking about like a weekend trip or something, you go, oh, yeah, for sure.
Because you should see how I pack my knife to travel with like 10 dish towels, rubber bands, and some blue painter's tape that I write knife on. It looks insane.
I've done the same thing at some point.
Are you streaming anything right now?
Margot's Got Money Problems. It's so fun. Apparently it's based on a novel. I really like it.
Is that the one with Elle Fanning?
Elle Fanning. She's really great. I saw her. I mean, she caught my eye when I was streaming The Great, the story of Catherine the Great. Hilarious.
Dream travel destination.
It's going to sound really bizarre, but I've always wanted to go to Fiji. This is like when I was 15. I was like, where is Fiji? And I looked it up. It's like on the opposite side of the globe. I've always wanted to go to Fiji, so I'm going to go someday.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do you want to stay in one of those over-the-water bungalow things that you see there?
Definitely.
That seems like fun, right?
Yeah. New Zealand. Is that close to New Zealand? It is, right? Fiji, New Zealand. That whole area I want to explore. And
we just did a project with the folks from Fisher and Paykel.
You did?
New Zealand appliance company.
I love that
They gave me a list of New Zealand chefs to follow.
Oh,
female
amazing.
chefs, because I don't know a lot about the scene. So to our New Zealand friends, welcome. Would love to know more about the women in food scene in New Zealand.
Have you been?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
No.
Okay. We have to go.
I'm thinking.
It's a great dishwasher, by the way.
Oh, absolutely. They make beautiful things. What was your favorite food as a kid?
Oh, my gosh. So simple. I was actually a picky eater myself. That's why I'm like, go easy on your kids. They're picky eaters. They'll come around. They called me keran kishin, which means in Korean, the egg monster. Because that's all I wanted to eat. Scrambled eggs, fried eggs, all over rice. Okay, this is Korea. Keep in mind. And they would try to sell me on the kimchi. That is like the white kimchi, the spicy kimchi, the 3-year-old kimchi, and to a 7-year-old. You're like, please take this stinky thing out of my sight. And all I wanted to do is eat rice and eggs. And then my grandmother was like, you still have to have some vegetables. She would like wash each leaf, like Napa cabbage leaf, in a glass of water and like shake off all the spicy bits off the kimchi, and she would put that on my plate. I know. It's very simple.
Oh my gosh. We have to work on a story about that. Do you either have to write it or I really want to work on some graphic novel treatments for things in Cherry Bombe.
Yeah.
I'm really into that lately.
Oh my God, yeah. Visually you can see it.
Right?
Right.
Exactly, with your grandmother with the so visual.
And in fact, actually this is a Japanese term also, omurice. Koreans also use this term too. It's just basically omelet rice. And so that's where that whole thing comes from, that kids will eat things that are not too challenging, even Asian kids. But they would still make it challenging. They would make the rice in sort of a quick stir fry with cubed up onions and carrots. That's a mound of the rice. And then they would scramble a couple of eggs and make a flat omelet and just put that over the rice. And then condiment of choice universally, internationally, is ketchup. And then you just put like squirts of ketchup all over the omelet, quote unquote, and you just eat that. And that's a meal.
And you like that?
I love that.
Yeah.
I think I still love it. I still make myself some omurice.
Do you have a favorite snack food? Are you much of a snacker?
I'm a crunchy snack. Like, there's another term. Shimshime. It's like my mouth gets bored.
That's so cool. I never heard of that.
I get so bored. Like, oh, I'm so bored. Oh, shimshime. It's a Korean term. But I like to use it for my mouth because it gets bored and it just wants to chew. And it has to be crunchy. I'm a crunchy, salty girl. So I don't go for sweets at all. If there's like a veggie straw or potato chips or pita chips, like in the car, I was like, I didn't have lunch. And I was like, I'm going to be in there with Kerry for a little while. I should have something in my system. So I just knocked back almost an entire bag of pita chips. Something.
Well, I've kidnapped you for longer than you were supposed to be here. So let me ask you our final question. If you had to be trapped on a desert island with one food celebrity, who would it be and why? I know who you might answer.
Edna.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Bourdain, I know there's a lot of talk about, his movie coming out, the biopic, and I met him years ago. I wouldn't say that I knew him well, but I definitely met him on a couple of occasions. And, that was a shocking news to the world, to the food world. And there were so many cooks that were affected by that. When you talk about mental health, there's a lot going on in this industry. Anyway, I have him on my brain, so I think he would be somebody totally cool to... Are we talking about past or present?
Whatever you want.
They hear, okay. Who did you think I was going to say?
I thought you might say Anita.
Oh, Anita. Oh, yeah, well...
Be like a vacation for you.
Yeah, totally. Now, you know what? I changed my mind because Anita, if we're stranded on...
Anita Lowe.
Anita Lowe. Okay, boss, I changed my mind. It's you because you know how to fish. She's actually going to teach me how to fish. So she would be an amazing person. She could totally help me survive. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Wait, when, where, and how is she teaching how to fish?
So she has a place out in Long Island, and she has had access to a fishing boat for a really long time. And forever, she and I, we've been talking about getting together to go fishing. But I think we're definitely going to make it happen this summer.
So you're going to get on a boat, go out into the water and fish.
So she's done everything. She on the small boat, the motorboat, fishing boat, she knows exactly where to go, how to fish, for the snappers versus the flatfish. She knows, she's such a wealth of knowledge. She's my mentor and I still learn from her. So I was like, you have to teach me how to fish.
Oh my God. I do feel like this has to be a video. I feel like I need to send somebody out to film this.
We'll try to do it ourselves. I'm not very good with the video.
You can't be on a boat.
I could film her
and film each other. That's not happening. That's not happening. But I think that would be hilarious. So he learns to fish.
That would be fun.
All right, we're gonna talk about that off.
No, I'm definitely gonna talk
mic.
to Anita about
that. Oh my gosh! Well, Sohui, always a pleasure. Thanks for coming on the show as many times as you have, and for being just an incredible part of the Bombe Squad. I can't thank you enough.
Ditto, Kerry. I'm just so in awe of what you have created. Cherry Bombe is just right here. You guys are the bomb.
That's it for today's show. Thank you so much to Sohui Kim for joining me. Don't forget, the Hot Dog Edit is happening tomorrow, Thursday, May 28th at Rock Center in partnership with OpenTable and Visa. I'll be there with Team Cherry Bombe, and we would love to see you. Head to cherrybombe.com for details on how to reserve your hot dog. If you missed my past episodes with our other Hot Dog Edit chefs, Michelle Palazzo and Angie Rito, make sure to check those out. The link is in our show notes. Our theme song is by the band Tra La La. Joseph Hazen is the studio engineer at Newsstand Studios at Rockefeller Center. Special thanks to Good Studio in Gowanus. Our producers are Catherine Baker and Jenna Sadu. Our executive assistant is Bridget Pittman. And our head of partnerships is Rachel Close. Thanks for listening, everybody. You're the bomb.